Moving on from the ghosts to a very much more solid set of models, the next spearhead we are going to be taking a look at today is the Wallsmasher Stomp. And you may be able to guess from the name that this spearhead is for the big boys on the block who are the Sons of Behemat. Now, you may be wondering how on earth a faction with so few models like the Sons of Behemat can actually even run in Spearhead, and it's not a strange question really with all of their big expensive models, but the way this Spearhead works is that they don't have any of their big, like monstrous giants in. Instead, the Wallsmasher Stomp makes use of just 3 models, which are actually 3 identical Warscrolls, and these are the Man-Crusher Gargants. So it is a bit dull, let's be honest, but if you want to play Spearhead and you want one of the quickest, easiest ways to dip into it, then this one could definitely work for you. Your general in this is a Man-Crusher Gargant, and then you bring 2 other Man-Crushers as your main unit, so it is, as I said, 3 models all in. However, you do get some slight keyword changes on your general. The Gargant you choose to be your general gains the hero keyword, but they also lose the reinforcement keyword which your other 2 Gargants have. Essentially what this means is that over the course of a Spearhead game, you can have up to 5 Gargants stomping around the battlefield, which is quite a lot of wounds and also quite a bit of damage to be throwing into the enemy. Obviously, having so few models does make getting those tactics sometimes a bit difficult, and if you need to be in multiple areas of the board or on multiple objectives, it can be very tricky to spread yourself out enough to do all of those things. But there are a few ways that this Spearhead helps you to get around those issues a bit, and they come first off in the rest of your battle traits, which are 2 abilities done in your hero phase or in any combat phase. Bellowing Roar is the combat phase ability. This allows you to pick one of your Gargants and an enemy unit in combat with them, and you roll a dice, and on a 2+, they get -1 to their hit rolls for the phase, so helping your low model count go that bit further by making your Gargants just a bit more durable against enemy units. And then you also get the hero phase rule, grab those rocks and chuck 'em. This rule is done by your general, and he gets to pick another Gargant wholly within 12 inches of him, and they get +1 attacks on their throwing rocks for the turn. So you can make your units not only a bit more defensive, but also a bit better with their shooting, which can help you to just sit on objectives better or get the enemy off them if you do want to go up and try and steal an objective. So they're a fairly decent set of traits which I think will help to make your small model count feel a bit less of a limitation in games of Spearhead. For your choice of Regiment ability, you still get to pick 1 out of 2, and they're either the passive Foe Chompers, which gives you a little heal to use whenever a model is slain by your unit's Stuff 'em in my bag ability. They can heal D3 health, so each of your Gargants as they're fighting can just keep their 12 health topped up a little bit better. It's not a huge heal by any stretch, but even just getting back 1 or 2 health each combat phase can make a massive difference when you only have 3 models on the board. The other option is Earth-Shaking Charge. This one lets you pick a unit of yours that has charged, and you roll a dice for each enemy unit in combat with your unit, and on a 3+, they get Strike Last. Being able to impact potentially multiple units is actually very nice. Normally it's just you get to select 1, so being able to potentially debuff 2 or even 3 units that you charge into is very nice. Do have to say though, I still don't really like the 3+ caveat for it, and I think in general between the 2, I actually prefer the heal. I mean, if you want all of your units to be fighting before the enemy as much as possible, then Earth-Shaking Charge could be worth considering. But for me personally, I just think the heal is overall a bit more reliable and is probably going to be the better option for helping you win games overall by having those models on the board for longer so you can contest those objectives and steal them for the full 4 battle rounds of the game. Naturally, your general gets to be made a little bit better still with a choice of enhancements. These are all fairly straightforward and easy. They are all passive and they just work to make your general better at whatever you want them to focus on. More defensive, a bit fightier, better at taking objectives. You can do any one of those a bit better with these enhancements. And they start off with Monstrously Tough, which just gives you a very simple +3 to your health, boosting you up to 15 health instead of 12. And this can actually make quite a significant difference in Spearhead, especially if you are getting those heals from Foe Chompers if you go for that Regiment ability. So your general with this can be sticking around for a good long time over the battle. Instead, what you could do is give your general an extra big bag, and this allows him to pick 2 enemy units instead of just 1 when he uses his stuff him in my bag ability, so giving you not only some much better damage output from that really reliable rule, but also the option to possibly heal 2d3 each time he fights, which can get him back potentially a full 50% of his health each fight phase if you've gone for that regiment. So this can be really handy as a durability and an offensive enhancement to go for if you want to get some healing back and do a bit more reliable damage to an enemy unit that you're going into. If instead you just want to hit combat as soon as you possibly can, then Lanky Git grants your general a 3d6 charge instead of the regular 2d6, boosting his average distance from around 7 inches all the way up to about 11, so giving you a much greater threat range, which in Spearhead is very significant, especially when you consider that your Gargants have got an 8-inch move base. Your general can now basically threaten anything that's about 19 inches away from him right from the very start of the game, which can just put a load of pressure onto the enemy force right from turn 1. Your final option is Furiously Territorial, and this is brilliant for helping your small army actually play the objective game better. He gets +1 to hit with his attacks against an enemy that is contesting an objective that you don't control. So if you need to go after a specific objective and you want your general to be really good at just pushing the enemy off it, this can actually be rather game-changing for making the most out of his attacks, and going from their base 4s to hit to the much better 3s to hit will really help him to push off almost anything that you'll come up against in Spearhead from an objective that he wants, and you will be able to much more reliably then claim it. So overall, I think it's 4 very good, very simple, but really quite strong enhancements, and honestly I do like all of them. They've all got a lot of use, they've all got some great utility. I mean, a 3d6 charge is always brilliant to have, but equally the bonus to hit around objectives can do wonders if you are trying to win and score points through the objective game. But equally, just getting some extra health is very nice. They're all very handy, and I think that each of them are at least worth playing around with to see which one suits your playstyle best. And then the final thing to discuss for this Spearhead is of course the Warscroll. It is just 1, as I said, because your 3 models are the same unit. The Man Crusher Gargants are 12 health with a 5-up save, so they are slightly more squishy than you would like, but they've got a solid 8-inch move and a whopping 10 control, so that does actually make them pretty good at getting around the smaller Spearhead boards and stealing objectives from your opponent. With the same weapon profiles that they have in regular AOS, they don't hit very well. They hit on 4s in melee and 5s with their throwing rocks at range, but they can do quite a bit of damage when they do connect. D3 damage from their rocks, as I said, at 12 inches, but then when they get into melee, 4 damage from their headbutt, D3 damage from their kick, and then 4 attacks at 2 damage each from their clubs means that each Gargant alone can be doing up to 15 damage in melee. And on average they'll do about 4 damage to a 4-up save, so they will kill off a few models in enemy units as they charge in, but then they do get even better and some more reliable damage with the stuff 'em in my bag rule which was mentioned earlier. This is done in any combat phase. Your Gargant gets to pick a unit and you roll a dice, and if the roll is at least double the enemy unit's health characteristic, then one model in that unit is slain, just flat out. So against 1 health enemies, basically on a 2+, you will just kill a model. So it's really reliable, and even against 2 health models, it's going off on a 4+, so 50-50, you've got a chance of killing something like a Chaos Knight as you go into them without any saves allowed. So it can be really quite powerful, and it means on average a Gargant going into a 1 health 4-up save infantry, they'll kill about 5 of them per fight phase, so that can actually be enough to flip an objective to your control, especially with your pretty good 10 control, and claim that objective and get those points for you. You do lose the keep up rule, which gives you run and charge near a Mega Gargant. Obviously that's not there because there are no Mega Gargants in Spearhead, but as a replacement rule you get Timber, which is a roll-off between players, and the winner gets to pick a point on the battlefield within 3 inches of your Gargant after it's been slain, and you do D3 mortal damage to each enemy unit within 2 inches of that point. So it won't always go your way, but potentially even when your Gargants die, they can still throw some damage into enemy units, which is just a nice way to kill off maybe a unit that only had a couple of models left and managed to kill your Gargant, so you can at least deny them objectives and points in theory, even if they do manage to kill your Gargant. As I mentioned earlier, they do also get reinforcements on the non-general Gargants, so that means 2 of them will be returning to fight again later on in the game. So the Spearhead as a whole has 5 models with a hefty 60 health for the enemy to chew through. So despite having that pretty bad 5-up save, it can be quite durable, all things considered, just through sheer mass of health. I think overall it can be a bit of a tricky Spearhead to manage due to that low model count, but you do have some good mobility, you have some really hefty potential damage in melee despite that 4+ to hit, which is a big downside, but you do have the potential for a lot of damage. You've got a great way to just insta-kill models pretty reliably with your bag, and a really good set of regiment abilities to heal your guys back up after they're fighting, so they can just keep on going for the full 4 battle rounds. And I think it's not a bad Spearhead at the end of the day. I don't think it's the worst out there. I feel like it's got a simple set of rules and abilities to get started with. You know, the fact that the enhancements are all passives is just nice and easy to work out how they work and what you need to do for them, which is nothing. So they are just quite easy ones to get into Spearhead if you've never played or you've never played AOS before. But equally, I think it's an army that can be a bit more in depth to get the most out of and leverage the most out of them if you are kind of a seasoned player and you want to kind of test your tactical skills and see if you can win the game by having just 3 models on the board at a time. So I think it's quite fun. I think it's quite interesting whether you are a new player or someone that has played Spearhead a lot more. And I think generally, as far as the traits, the abilities, the enhancements go, this is a fairly good Spearhead to be getting into. So if you like giants and you want a Spearhead game that you can get into quickly and simply, just painting up 3 models, this could be a very good one to grab. But as always, I'd love to know what you make of the Wallsmasher Stomp and how you think it compares to the other Spearheads in the game at the moment. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. And as always, thank you very much for watching. Please do like and subscribe for more Warhammer content from me. But until next time, I'll catch you later, guys.